Welcome to Decoding Our Lives, a place to ask questions, gain understanding, and find the missing pieces of your life. It's time to open your mind and discover the world from a new place and a whole new perspective. Now here are your hosts, the Shaman Lady, Kathy Silver, and the Reverend Rob Lee. Kathy, what's happening? How are you this morning?
Hey, happy Tuesday. We've been waiting for rain. We finally got some rain, which is always cleansing. I like to say liquid sunshine. And
that's good. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it cleanses everything, waters the plants and all that kind of stuff. So life is good. Now, in spite of the chaos, I feel strong, stable, connected, all that good stuff. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, but like you said today, and today for people that might be watching this a while down the road, it's January 11th, 2022. So, today I told you I felt the chaos. It's kind of I'm having to like gear down because I was getting all these downloads last night and everything else. So let's see what's happening, and we'll find out. So maybe we'll have to do a check-in on where the Rev's at 2 weeks from now or whatnot.
That's what we're here to do. This is the light workers doing the heavy lifting.
There you go.
We're here to hold that energy. So of course we're going to feel it, but it's our job also to I'm going to say, hold a space so that, the energy can continue to work and bring in the benevolence and the love and the good things that's coming our direction. And I say ours as humanity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, we got a guest waiting right here. Cool young man. And, a lot of people, let's preface what's going on. Well, let's just bring him in and find out what's going on. Okay.
All right.
This is cool. Let's just bring Ryan in and then we can kind of tell him, what's going on and
why I reached out to him and invited him on.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go. Let's see what's happening. All right. Here he's joining. Ryan, what's happening? How are you, sir?
Going Rob.
Good. Ryan, we're going to do something here. We're doing it. We're kind of doing a special. And you were one of our first. So this is really cool. We appreciate it. Okay. But one of the things we talk about is how millennials think. Okay. And, millennials catch bad rap. I've got one son that's a millennial. The rest are all older. And Kathy and I were talking about, Kathy, don't you think millennials catch a bad rap?
Well, I was getting paint at the paint store and talking to a gal named Holly who was working there. And she said, I just don't understand the millennials. They don't want to work. And I said, no, that's not true. I said, they're actually very hard workers. They're here to break the system. And she looked at me and she wasn't quite sure what that meant. So what I thought is, how many other people don't understand that we have systems that really aren't serving the greater good? So the generation that we are in just kind of went along with the party line.
Yeah.
And so because I have two sons, they're really both millennials. And one of them told me, Mom, I'm the oldest one, Mom, I'm so sorry I sold out. He's a nuclear engineer, right? And the other one is a starving artist, which is really challenging the system on every level. So I think importantly, since we have this show called Decoding Our Lives, I think it's really important for others to understand that what we've created really needs to be broken down. The breakdown leads to a breakthrough. Right. And I think that's what's happening if we look at the bigger picture. And so that is why we brought Ryan on, is because, sorry, I don't know why I said that. It's because he's here to give us that millennial opinion, to talk about what he feels, his passions, why he's doing what he's doing, and how he didn't fit into the old system.
Ryan, so, so how old are you? A lot of people are wanting to know, a lot of people have to look up what a millennial is. How old are you?
I just turned 29, so I think maybe I'm on the edge of it there.
You're on the cusp. You're on the cusp. My son is 26. So let me ask you this, Ryan. do you notice that people your age and a little younger late age in that millennial, do you see a different frame of thought than what Kathy and I grew up with?
I think so. I think if you think back to like the 1950s concept where it was, you know, family unit and go and get a job and you have that happy life, you have the white picket fence. That was the concept of security, right? I've been in two very distinct different groups. When I was 19, 20, I went to massage school in South Carolina. So I was around a very like rethinking, more kind of feminine mindset, right? Very fluid and not really interested in the system, but kind of somewhat entrepreneurial, right? As a massage therapist, but still like very fluid and like, I'm going to go where the wind takes me. Prior to going there, I actually went and got certified in breath work, rebirthing breath work with Leonard Orr. And that was very fluid for me. That was like, I was led there by, I read a book and I like got on a Greyhound bus and I was full of anxiety and I just went on this leap of faith and it kind of launched me into that aspect. I was living in a horse stable. They called it a dooney, like a fire shack, but it's a horse stable. And I was making $50 a week, like mowing his fields with a push mower. So I was very much just in the, I have no plan. I have ideas, but no like concepts or goals yet. I know like what I'm passionate about, but I have no formalization yet. After that, and after massage school, I actually ended up going and joining the Marine Corps, one of the most structured environments you can go into. And they really try to mold a mindset for you, right? And put you, if you want to talk about going into the system, the Marine Corps system.
That's it.
And I joined the recon teams, which is like the special operations teams. It's one of the two in their group. And that helped me really develop a more confident, directed mindset. But because I had that prior open spirituality, just open kind of fluidity mindset, they really had a struggle locking me down into their goals. And when I tell people, if you're going to join the military, you better join with an exit strategy because they're going to try to keep you. It was good because when we talk about, so you said you have two sons, Kathy, one you say sold out, went in the system, and one is kind of that starving artist. What if we could do both? What if we could have that fluid, innovative mindset, but be wildly abundant and successful doing so? I think
I think we can. I think we can.
Yeah,
this was Joshua's admission when I was there a couple months ago, but he's been on this journey for, he's 37, right? My other one's 33. And so he's been on it for a while. And I think it was his realization for the first time ever, like, oh my God, what have I done? But I think that he ultimately is there for a reason. And perhaps will begin to change the system within the system. So, I just told him, you know what? You are where you are right now. You're supposed to be there. Let's not worry about it. Let's not beat yourself up, right? So that was my attitude. And my whole attitude, as long as they're happy, I don't care what they do, and I mean that. So, but my youngest one is still struggling because, I don't know if you did the why, Rob did the why. His why is challenge the system. And so he challenges everything. But anyway, needless to say is I think that this millennial generation is here to fix a system that really hasn't served us. Let me say that. We think it has, and we think we have security, and we think we have retirement. We think we have all these things, but we really don't.
Ryan, so finish what you were saying with the, what if we could do both? What's the millennial concept behind that?
So when we think about like, I've gone into the system, I'm in it now. You can't really combat a system or debate a system if you don't understand how the system works. If I were to debate somebody on a topic, I'm not going to use something outside of their framework of thinking. I'm going to let them guide me in that discussion. I'm going to learn how they think, and then I'm going to debate them within the framework of that concept, right? That could be a religious debate. That could be really any type of debate, whatever you think, a political debate. So learning the system is important. You know, I really learned the system well in the Marine Corps, and it gave me a framework to be able to understand where our problems are so we could implement solutions. I think in the millennial mindset, it's, do I want to get caught in a 9-to-5 job where I work 100% of the time, I make 75% of the profit with the current W-2 tax system? Do I want to have an inflated currency that's continuing inflation? Do I want to think I'm hedging against that by putting into an IRA or, you know, a 401k or something that can be usurped by the government at any time, such as a Social Security? Our current administration has stated many times prior that they would like to remove certain government beneficial programs like Social Security. So is it really? My concept is really taking that power into your own hands. Something I learned in the Marine Corps was nobody has your best interest but you, you know? Now, us in these kinds of groups, and when I was in massage school, that type of group, everybody has everybody's best interest because they're very people-oriented groups. You have to know your crowd. You have to know who, you know, who you're talking to and what group you're in, and if they have your best interest in mind. And you always want to be considering, as you're giving to others, you're going to have nothing to give if you don't have anything for yourself, and keeping that balance, right? Be abundant so you can preach abundance. So I think that's the idea of the millennial is what infrastructure can be put into place to not necessarily, the system's going to destroy itself. It's designed to fall apart. Now, can we put something in place in time to replace it so everybody can benefit? I think that's what I would say, summarization of what maybe a millennial would think.
Okay. And I like that. I like the challenging, you know, that because if I could go back and change anything in my life, all right, it would not be the women I married. It would, none of that. I would leave everything exactly the same, but I would consistently challenge the system of saying, you know, because there was a lot of misery that I brought into my life and into my children and my spouse's life because of the way I was living my life, the way I was supposed to do it. 9 to 5, give everything to somebody else, never have anything for me. And then, you know, at the end of it, we're all scrapping for a dime, we're fighting. And that brought in all that other stuff. And I think what's going on right now is the millennials and people like yourself are challenging something just the way it was when I started to challenge my belief in what the God I was told is. It can be just that, because we've linked patriotism and all this crap together, and they're not. They're completely different, same thing. So I think a lot of when we see these millennials, but what they're doing is they're living their life.
Okay, so I have a question. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, you know, they're living their own life. Go ahead, ask your question. Ask Ryan.
Okay, so let me ask you this. As this shift, and as we're in the question, are we giving permission to individuals to live their authentic truth rather than be buttonholed into a system that doesn't work for them? So are we expanding that window of opportunity where everybody doesn't have to do the same thing? And so that seems like this shift is that, just like you just admitted, Rob, you were into a system that didn't allow you to be you.
Right.
And so is this an expansion? Are we breaking down this barrier that everybody has to do the freaking same thing and have the little white house with a picket fence around and have a 9 to 5 job and have the 2 kids and the 1 dog and the half a cat and the 1.5 goldfish, you know, and they don't have to live on Pleasantville, right? Because it's bigger, and they can see we're going from a black and white system where there is no gray zone to a color system that gives us so much more clarity and so many more options that it's okay to be who you are.
Ryan, what do you think?
So basically what you're asking is, are we potentiating people's skill sets, their unique individual skill sets? Now, my answer to what the concept we said back in the 1950s with white picket fence versus now is, are you going to let life live you, or are you going to live life? Are you going to be that conscious creator who pushes these ideas forward? Because there's people out there doing it. So you're either going to help create the system or a system, or you're going to live in somebody else's. And I think that's kind of like what the idea of the awakening is, no matter if you're talking about it from like a religious perspective, you know, they're talking about an awakening, the spiritual perspective, an awakening, or just a new movement for humanity from a non-religious perspective. What I think it really means is you're either going to be consciously involved and awake to the decisions you make, or you're probably just gonna kind of fall to the wayside, because we're just moving in a very consciously creative direction. And that is beneficial to you. There's a fear aspect to it, because you're like, oh no, I have to do something now. Can I do something?
Responsibility.
It is a big responsibility.
Right, because you can think the healthcare system, which is really sick care, has taken responsibility for our health. The government has taken responsibility for our finances. The religion has taken responsibility for our soul. And so when we step into what you're talking about, we begin to take that responsibility on ourselves. Now, the other thing that you just said was live in somebody else's system. So this is exactly what the Matrix movie was about. And you have to either be aware you're in somebody else's system, and it takes courage and bravery to be outside of that, I'm going to say, of the Matrix. But nobody can lead you to outside except for yourself.
As the world is going through this catalytic birth canal, which is, you know, some people are terming as Armageddon, end of the world. I term it as transmuting, alchemizing process to go to something better. But as that happens, we are going to individually do so ourselves. And it's really, can you get past your own trauma and your own catalytic event that's going to come into your life that's going to help you be that phoenix that rises out of the ashes? Or are you just going to burn? You know, that's the idea, is you're being given something so big, but there's that responsibility you talked about. What are you going to do with it? It's being put into your hands. And that's exactly what free will is. It's being put into your hands, so make your choice. And I think that's how millennials, it's kind of dividing the class of millennials. You have your ones that are kind of just letting life live them. Then you have your ones that are like, I'll sleep under a bridge before I'm going to go into the system. I mean, all of these big businesses we see that have changed our world started in like garages and from people that didn't follow the system. If you follow the system, you have the security of not losing everything, but you also have the limitation of not being able to gain exponentially, right? You're going to live in that middle Pleasantville that you said.
I think that's it. I think a lot of us, especially people my age, Kathy's age, and unfortunately our leaders, they came up in that system and they were able to profit from it. So therefore they want to keep pounding that system back down somebody's throat. Where when we realize, you know, I love the idea. My wife and I very seldom watch regular TV at all. Yeah. And some of the things we watch are these people that I love it. They're like, hey, I'm taking this truck, I'm converting it into, like what you said. And you know what? I'm going to ask somebody if I can live on their property for a while, but while I explore, build my dreams, go to school, you know, what are the things? And I love that concept of, if we go back 50 years ago, we would have been told, well, we were told because we were dealing with hippies then. Okay, the hippies were the millennials, I guess, of their age, you know, of how horrible and lazy they don't want to work, things like that. And what I'm getting, especially like from my son, he's always looking for new ideas. Now he was military, just like you. And he's like, yeah, this system sucks. It's horrible, you know? And now he's, like you said, exit strategy. He's doing his exit strategy in the reserves. But at the same point, what if we did this? What if we did this? He's always even challenging within their system, the physical fitness scales, different things like that, what to do, different exercises. And you know what? A lot of them are, he was told, just like I was told at my last gig, stop caring so much.
One of the biggest phrases is, who told you to think?
Yes.
Oh,
Right?
the system doesn't want us to think because critical thinkers break the system. That goes back to the early days of Rockefeller and his philanthropist that gave away the money, Frederick T. Gates, a Baptist minister from New York. And he did not want people, that's why they were trying to take away art and all of those creative things, because it caused people to think, and they didn't want that. They were looking for people to go into the system and be good doobies, good little robots that did exactly what they were told. And I think that's another thing, is people have been conditioned to believe that someone else has our best interest. Probably not.
And you know what? I think people like Ryan, these young people, have learned our bullshit. They have learned to spot the bullshit. Okay.
Yeah.
And they're willing to call people on their bullshit. And I'll give you a good example. Pissed me off so much, even at that point, because I had started to come out. When Jerry Johnson, whatever you say his name, Dallas Cowboy dude, built that massive stadium and he put up the world's largest LED TV or whatnot, he did so saying, I'm doing this for my community. But he shrunk the seats. Okay. Stop with the bullshit. You did it to make millions upon millions of dollars to get people in there. If you wanted to do something for your community, I remember this one freaking TV was like $10 million. You want to do something for your community? How many houses could you have built in your community for $10 million and said, here you go? Not a payment plan, not anything. So you didn't do, huh?
Never liked him. To me, he was an egotistical bastard. That's all I can tell you. It was all
I don't
about
know him, but don't build a football stadium and tell me you're doing it for the community when everybody got to pay to go in, and you created a bunch of underpaying crap jobs that are just keeping people locked in your system. So sorry, Ryan, I went off. It's your show. We're here to talk to you. But that was what you said was, I was like, holy shit.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I want to know from Ryan what his vision and passion is at this moment. What do you envision yourself doing? What do you want to create? What drives you in the morning?
Okay, so I'll give you some context, some background. To address one thing you said before, in order to change the system, I think you have to use the tools you're given. So you have to use the system that you have in play and transfer that. That's why I don't think it's bad to get in, because then you are kind of like that. How would you say it? Like a spy, or like, you know what I mean? Like you're that secret agent.
How about pixel in a painting?
Yeah. You're the fly on the wall, right? Yeah. Learning how it works so that you can change it. It started out with me. I had a pretty big passion for alternative healthcare. I didn't like big pharma. I saw big pharma as the game that it is, kind of like big religion, the game that it is. It's a business. You're weaponizing healthcare and people's fears or people's belief systems against them so that you can make a profit. So initially, I had started out wanting to make the world's largest franchisable wellness centers, to bring them around so that we could take down big pharma, because the only way you are going to beat the system is not by protesting it. You can't ask somebody for your freedoms back that they took, right? Because their freedoms are not privileges, so they couldn't take them in the first place. You have to come up with a system yourself that has such network and capital that you can obliterate their system, but it has to be from a basis of integrity and minded for the people, right? And I think that's where we're going with things. Everybody's kind of being consciously minded towards the people, not in a communistic sense, but in a way that accentuates your skill sets, like we were talking about before. Well, that kind of evolved in everything that's been going on in the country and around the world right now. That idea kind of evolved to just the way we live and about everything. Your financial situation, where you live, the food you're eating, the water you're drinking, your health system, and your education system. They're attacking you on all fronts, right? Who do I mean by they? People that prioritize money over people. That's the simplest sense that I would say they is not necessarily. We could go on any rabbit trail we want of saying, a cabal and all this kind of stuff, but it's really, if you boil it down, it's people that prioritize money or themselves over others. So My idea is, what I'm working on is creating a different way that we develop communities and neighborhoods built on organic farmlands, which we can utilize to change the way that we farm and move back to biodynamic farming as the standard of farming, which you can look in Rudolf Steiner's work, right? Clean water supply. I have a few people that I'm working with to develop structures to make a community structured off clean water supply, but also give you your own devices for water purification to bring around wherever you go. Because in these communities, what we have to keep in mind is there's a lot of pitfalls you can fall into. People have done this before. You can be deemed a cult. You could be just a self-sustaining community that kind of fringes out. So how do we do it in a new innovative way to where it's expanded and inclusive to everybody, and it's not, monopolized in any way? So that's kind of what I'm working with. I really want to put education centers on there, wellness centers, so that you're fully sustained. You're insulated to a collapse, but you're not isolated, right? Insulated, not isolated is kind of the mentality that I've got going here. And that's kind of, and then there's 7 pillars to it, but also there's going to be a housing aspect to bring affordable housing to people who are stuck in places like inner city, paycheck to paycheck. They're within our system we're in, they have no line of credit that would even be able to garner them a loan to even get a tangible asset to build themselves off of. They're in the system. So to get out of the system is to present another option. So I'm working on a housing model that we can gear towards any financial class citizen to help everybody out of the system, so we can create that new world. That's kind of the idea.
Well, it seems like we could even barter, if you didn't have that, but you were really good with the plants and the animals, that you could trade those services for a place to live. It seems like you're talking about self-sustaining communities, which take you out of the system. And the other thing is, people throw the word cult around when you don't fit into the mainstream thought pattern. So that seems to be a default. Oh, well, you're just talking about a cult, but really you're trying to get out of the system, which holds everybody captive. Now, there are, I'm going to say, bad cults. I'm not saying that, but I'm also saying that people throw that around as a term to say, oh, you're talking about a cult. No, you're talking about a sustainable community, which basically supports each other, which I would also include, an energetic component to get off the grid, because the grid cannot support the way it's going. It's just too draining on the whole system.
That's where utilizing the resource we have, utilizing like solar power, stuff like that, and that's what I've been doing recently. That's why I really had to come out of that 9-to-5 aspect, because I need time to meet with people. I'm not an expert in every single field I just mentioned, right? So I have to bring together the different experts and then synthesize that knowledge and help disseminate that in a simplified manner from an expert level to, a layman, so that they can just get their feet wet and get interested in this new way of life. I'm not going to tell you what you shouldn't be doing anymore. I'm going to give you a better option, and it's your choice if you want to take it. I'm going to incentivize you. And that's because we don't want just these fringe communities where we all just kind of disintegrate out and we're living our own things, or like maybe even like the Amish community where it's just an isolated by itself thing. I want to create a model. It's the way we live, and we franchise it around the world, because if we do this and we do it right, we can solve world hunger, world thirst, our medical crises over in third world countries. We can solve every issue because we're all going to be involved, and we can actually create jobs doing so. The reason I want to establish it as a business, and me and Rob had talked about this before, about considering different ways to do it. I'm still in that phase of thinking, right? But I want to do it in a way to where we can pull everybody in and create a compensation out of it too, because that's going to drive it out into the world. That's using the system at hand to bring this out. And it's still in development. And like I said, I'm still developing the business plan of how I want to do it and bringing people in, and I'm open to ideas, but I want to protect it against all the pitfalls we mentioned, and I want it to be in the mind for people. I want to do something that changes the world that we live in.
And you know what? That's very important to understand, is because science will tell us that once you start trying to build a community, you're building another system. Everything is it's systems theory. Okay. Yes. And we use systems theory in family. We use it with marriages. We use it with all different things. But there's nothing wrong with a different system. I personally believe, like Ryan believes, I don't believe that we are unsustainable. I believe we've been told we're unsustainable because, again, if we were to challenge Duke Energy, Florida Power and Light, every power company across, which is a private capitalistic institution, if we were to challenge them, and one of my heroes, I hate it when he bitches about having to pay his taxes, but Elon Musk, I just watched a thing with him talking about he's got these power supplies that would literally power small cities but at fractions of the cost. I think there are people like him that are thinking so far beyond it. But what I think he better be careful of is, honestly, he starts talking that and bringing it out. I don't think the electric car is it. I really don't. I think that I kind of think electric cars are lame because of all the batteries we're going to have to deal with and everything else. And then it's 400 miles. I want to go 400 miles. What you're telling me is if I want to go 800 miles, I got to have a car in reserve anyways. So if I want to live that life, we'll build Ryan's community and we'll make it a golf cart community. Then us old farts can just have a fucking blast.
Stop that thinking. You're not an old fart. But what I was going to say also is every major city is built around the water, and that constant push-pull of the waves could create a generator like back and forth 24/7 with very little pollution. Also, if we dig down into the earth, it's hot. It's like Mother Earth's generator. We could probably harness that heat as well. So there are so many different options. It's just, as you said, Rob, the corporate entities aren't real happy in sharing that because it's less profit for them.
The other thing is, as you dig down, you'll tap into water tables too.
Right.
And you'll create, map the water tables, and you can create sustainable communities around that. One thing we want to work on is getting away from the systems of water we have in regards to what's being put in the water.
Oh yeah.
Whatever your standpoint on fluoride, chlorine in your water, I think we can all agree that the stripping of minerals in your water is not good, right? And what we would term hard water is not hydrating your system and being absorbed the way that it needs to. And that's not even to bring in work like Masaru Emoto's living water, right? That's not even bringing in that energetic component. That's just bringing in the very natural, I think we should probably have our minerals in our water. Yeah, and it's something I dealt with in the military. Camp Pendleton had a lawsuit put against it because their water in their housing supply, not even their barracks where the military were, where the families were getting permanent brain damage because of the centralized aspect of the water supply. There was like rats had gotten into it or whatever.